So when it came for James Bond's adventure in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Sean Connery had decided he didn't want to do James Bond anymore. I can't remember the whole story, but he was out and they had to get a new Bond. So they cast George Lazenby, who, yeah, look, it's just one shot at it. Apparently he walked away, wasn't interested in pursuing it further. I guess that's the story. I don't know. He was no Sean Connery. It was a tough act to follow. And, watching the movie again, just on a simplistic view of it, he did sort of okay. And in some instances was really good, in which he was trying to pretend to be someone else in the film and that sort of thing, and could alter his voice somewhat in that. So you got that going for you. It's kind of a shame that Sean Connery wasn't in it, because it would have been cool for him to be opposite Diana Rigg, because of all the women who could steal the heart of James Bond, who is obviously has quite a few problems with women. As far as the poor bastard is gonna die alone, but in this case, no, he does fall in love, and they get married, and so this sets up a turn of events that will continue for a few more films. But anyway, this is one where some of the business of it was too much of celebrating the Bond franchises, because and it seemed to indicate they were not confident in their new Bond. The opening sequences is okay in and of itself, with the silhouettes of the girls, typical Bond imagery for an opening sequence. And I love the theme song. It doesn't have a singer for it. I think it's the only one that, if I recall, that did. There was Louis Armstrong's song, I guess, is to be considered the official song with a singer to it, but the opening theme song was pretty cool. But the visuals was you had the girls and everything, and that's fine. But then it was just a bunch of clips from the past movies. And then on top of that, there's a scene where he's going through a desk, and it's all these artifacts that apparently he kept trophies from the previous films too. I kind of think had Sean Connery continued in the role and had done this film, they probably wouldn't have done any of that. So there is that. Another aspect of it is the fight scenes. And this was typical of the era, and a lot of it speeds up really fast and stuff as they're going through them all and all that. But at other times, it's like, man, when this guy throws a punch, and the thug goes flying across the room and stuff, it's like, well, he's James Bond, he's not Superman. Stuff like that. But so they're keeping in with Blofeld being the ultimate villain for Bond. Batman has the Joker, Superman's got Lex Luthor, and James Bond has Blofeld. And there's interest in where he is. He runs afoul somewhat of M, and he threatens to quit altogether. He ends up going with a 2-week leave of absence. Ends up on the Blofeld case that just happens to coincide with Diana Rigg's character, Tracy, who's this girl who's troubled, rather bored and stuff. And it just so happens her father is also the head of a criminal organization, but is wanting James Bond to set his daughter straight and marry her, so that she, can become a proper woman, And that's pretty much what happens. So James ends up stumbling onto Blofeld's new scheme, where he's brainwashing women and to use them to release a bacterial weapon. Gee, boy, that sounds familiar. And that he could extort the world's governments for his gain and whatnot. So the MI6 is telling Bond he's off the case or what have you, and this sort of thing. So of course there's a ski chase that goes on forever. And this is all part of the romantic adventure between him and Tracy, and pretty much proposes marriage to her, and he's she's won his heart and all this sort of stuff. And then she gets kidnapped, so of course he's got to rescue her, but he can't rely on Britain for it, so he turns to her father, who, well, he's a crime lord. He's got his own fleet of helicopters, and so they attack Blofeld's base. And boy, I tell you, when they're coming into it, he's sitting there talking with Tracy and stuff, and here come the bullets flying through the window. Boy, it's a good thing she got down in time. So, and then there's another ski chase, then a toboggan chase, and on and on. But the actual stunts and whatnot of Bond sneaking about and all this stuff is not bad. It's actually pretty good. And it basically works fairly well. Can't help but think that if Connery had done it, it would have come across better. But some of the overemphasis on the silly lines and dialogue, that's the signature for Bond films. But it's just it's so obviously dubbed and thrown in here and there when they're in the middle of being shot at and driving around on iced over roads and whatnot. It kind of takes you away from the event. There's a place for it, and is where you have a moment of a pause where you'll have Bond look back at something and say some smart ass line. That's fine, but they were just dropping one after another here and there. I thought that was a bit of a mistake. The other thing about it is that he goes undercover, infiltrating what Blofeld's up to, and pretends to be, I believe, he's a German character. Blofeld and Bond have already met, so it's like, oh well, Bond regenerated into George Lazenby, so you don't recognize him. But no, Blofeld does recognize him, but for some, and then the idea that he wouldn't recognize Blofeld, I mean, it's just, yeah, we know who we are. I mean. But of course, Blofeld somehow regenerated from Donald Pleasance into Telly Savalas. Yes, yeah, I'm the head of Spectre, baby. So, yeah, well, what are you gonna do? But it pretty much works out. Bond and Tracy get married. They're off on their honeymoon, and then the big tragic moment happens. Blofeld's muscle woman sprays Bond's car with bullets and kills Tracy. So it's a quiet, sad moment where he's stunned and whatnot. But there's some follow-up to that in the next film, Bond wanting revenge. But considering the magnitude of what it is, it's not quite handled as well. There's another mention of it in Roger Moore's era. So technically speaking, I think you can argue that the initial era of James Bond ended with Roger Moore, and then it restarts with Timothy Dalton in that, and that the events that happened, and so keeping that Bond was married at one time, but she was killed, and that does get referenced, most notably. And apparently, Roger Moore's Bond gets the best of Blofeld for the final time in sort of a brief scene. But anywho, it's not a bad Bond film. It's kind of tossed aside, I guess, because it was this one-shot deal for Lazenby, and I don't think he was going to make the list of anyone's favorite Bond. But he got the one film. Had he stayed on, but if Sean Connery wanted it back, they would have tossed him aside anyway. I don't know, but had he done another, would it have been better? Maybe so. I don't know. Maybe to do it for him to do the follow-up to this with Diamonds Are Forever. maybe that's maybe it would have worked better. I don't know, but it was not to be. So there we are on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which oddly enough he wasn't on Her Majesty. He was on a leave of absence for 2 weeks, but yeah, in the end he did serve Her Majesty. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh my goodness, so many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.